my name is Pamara Chang, and I am an assistant professor in the digital media program, specifically in the Department of Information Science Technologies in the College of Engineering. I'm also the founder and director of this lab, the Social Media and Inclusive Health Lab. In the digital media program, I went to college at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and then from there, I did my master's and PhD at Cornell University. I majored in communication and community health, and my master's and PhD is in communication with a specialty in communication technologies. My research looks at how people with stigmatized identities and information manage that stigma with different communication technologies, whether it be social support forums, actual wearable technologies like cochlear implants, mobile interventions, social media platforms, etc. One area of stigmatized identities that I've always been interested in is invisible disabilities. Disabilities where it's not visible to the human eye unless that person discloses that information or it's unintentionally disclosed by somebody else or by some uninterrupted event where it's observable. And so I was really interested in how people who are deaf manage that information, because a lot of people who are deaf can go through what's called passing. It's literally passing by as a hearing person, right? Because unless you start talking to somebody, unless you start signing to somebody or disclosing, just by looking at someone, you might not know that they're deaf. So SSD stands for single-sided deafness. And before I define it, I do want to mention that the hard of hearing community likes to be acknowledged as people on a spectrum. So there is what's called the big D deaf community, the little d deaf community, the single-sided deaf community, the hard of hearing community as well. And there are a few others. And all of them aren't just different based on the amount of decibels they can hear per ear, but it's also very cultural. So the SSD community, however, is a group of people who lost more than 70 decibels in one ear and they have normal hearing in the other ear. You can be born single-sided deaf, but you could also acquire single-sided deafness because of any situation, really, an accident, a traumatizing surgery, and actually for a lot of unknown reasons as well. This was part of a larger study looking at how people with single-sided deafness manage their identities. I did a quantitative survey. That was really cool, actually. It covered people from all over the world. There were more than 350 people who filled it out. And then there was a qualitative aspect of it. And the beauty of qualitative studies is that you go in with specific research questions, but there might be emerging patterns, or through these interviews and conversations with participants, you could dig deeper into something interesting that they found. And it turns out this paper was a product of that. I went in looking at different communication technologies and the perception of those, and how people with single-sided deafness use them. But a lot of them started mentioning tattoos. So I revised the interview guide and I started interviewing more and more people about tattoos and the construction of tattoos and the motivation for getting tattoos and how that fit into the disclosure patterns and, like you said, visibility management. I have two trains of thought. So one is, with stigma and stigmatized identities, it's really contextual and situational. So what might be stigmatized in one group might not be stigmatized in another. And I find that because people who are deaf identify differently with their deafness, that idea of stigma being contextual and situational really holds true. So some people are very prideful with their identity. They don't feel stigmatized. And so this gets to this idea that some people really embrace their identities, whether it's a new identity or an identity that they're born with, and it's not stigmatized in their viewpoint. It might be stigmatized by the majority, but to them, it's something that they're prideful of and that they really embrace. And the second train of thought I have is, a lot of professors, research professors in particular, they research a specific technology or a specific communication phenomenon. But with stigmatized conditions, each one is so unique and there's so many nuances per community, per health condition, per communication technology, that I found that over the years, I've researched so many different health conditions. And although there are overarching stigma theories and predictions and models, really the results have been so varying based on the health condition, based on the stigmatized identities. I found that through the 41 interviews I did from people all over the United States and people who both were born single-sided deaf and acquired deafness, they got tattoos for different motivational reasons. One was functional. So a lot of people would have tattoos behind their ear and it would look like a microphone with a slash on it and then a microphone without a slash on one ear, indicating which ear is hearing and which ear is not, for functional reasons to show other people where they can and cannot hear. There are also personal reasons. So a lot of people who acquired deafness from surgeries that, had to do with like neurological surgeries, for example, and then they woke up deaf in one ear, or an accident that they had, or unknown reasons where they woke up one day and they couldn't hear in one ear. A lot of those individuals got tattoos to actually memorialize the loss of their tattoos, which I thought was so fascinating. They would get, at funerals, they have like garlands of flowers, or different cultures have different tattoos memorializing the passing of loved ones. They would get those tattoos behind the ear, memorializing the loss of their hearing. And then other reasons were identity-based and camaraderie-based. So a lot of people with stigmatized identities, and that includes people who are single-sided deaf, they look online for social support, because face-to-face, you don't just, walk into a university or, walk into a coffee shop and right away it's someone else who has single-sided deafness. So a lot of people go online to find social support, to kind of acculturate to their new identity. I think the biggest takeaway I would want anybody to take away from this paper is that not all stigmatized communities want to hide their disability. They don't want to always go through a decision-making factor based on who they're talking to or where they are or what work they have. We're finding that more and more people, one way to manage their stigma is to take pride in their disability and really embrace their disability and incorporate it into their personal identity. And so I think one of the most fascinating findings of this paper is that these communities are finding ways to visibly, without speaking, disclosing their disability to anyone that they come across, no matter what situation that they're in. And I think this is a newer phenomenon, and I think it's very different from the stigma research that's been done up until now. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this interview about my work on managing stigma disclosures in the context of single-sided deafness. To learn more about single-sided deafness, the team has also posted links as resources. Also, thank you to the senior project team as part of the digital media program for directing and producing this video, as well as asking thoughtful interview questions about the study. If you have any questions or would like to follow up about this study, please feel free to reach out to me and email me directly, or you can contact our lab, the Social Media and Inclusive Health Lab, as part of the digital media program.